Turning on the camera today to talk about goals and how to set them more effectively. We all have goals, hopefully, but sometimes it can get pretty difficult trying to achieve the goals and setting the right goals in the first place. So today I'm going to talk about some of the mindset patterns, tips, and tricks that I use to better achieve my goals and set better goals in the first place, which is where most of the problems stem from. Goals are a beacon of light in a world of darkness. Now, I don't mean to sound dramatic or anything, but that's just kind of a good metaphor that I thought that would better represent what goals are and what their main purpose is. The whole point of a goal is to steer you in the right direction. So think of it as a lighthouse out at a dark sea by the coast, and ships look for that lighthouse to find where they need to go. You need to think about your goals that way. Set a goal, it'll put you in the right direction. It's kind of surprising how some people don't have any goals at all. Because at the end of the day, what are you doing? What are you working towards? You don't really have a clear objective. So you need to set strong goals that are going to ultimately be what you want to do in life. So the downside to this is that if a goal is too big, it can become very overwhelming to try and work towards it. I've had some personal experience with this past year. I went through a few months where I was just kind of lazy. I hate to use that word, but I really was. I wanted to make a lot of videos on YouTube, a lot of big ones, some that I even spent money on that I never even posted. However, I bit off more than I could chew and ended up not even really being motivated at all to work on them. This is why goals are kind of a double-edged sword. They're really good because they can be a great motivator and a great beacon of light. However, on the other hand, you can become very overwhelmed and quickly just fall off working on anything. This is why it's vital to set small goals that are easily attainable. You still got to work for them to kind of build that habit, but goals that you can get within a couple weeks, maybe even a couple days if you aren't very good with delayed gratification. The whole point of these small, easy goals, even though they seem really easy depending on how hard you set them, the whole point of them is to build motivation and momentum for your bigger goals. Because if you're starting here, if you're starting here and your goal is up here, you got a long way to go. But if you start here and here's a goal, here's a goal, here's a goal, here's a goal, and that's your final goal, it's a lot easier when you build that motivation every single time. Now, a great example of this is, say you want to have $1 million. I feel like that's a goal for a lot of people to be a millionaire. But if you have $0, that's a long way to go to $1 million. So you need to break it down, obviously, into maybe your first 1,000, 10,000, 20,000, 50,000, and then 100,000, and then, oh, I forgot I was going to $1 million, but 500,000, and then you get the point. Just get exponentially more. This way, at the beginning, when it's really hard to have motivation and you don't have any proof of your concept or proof that you are going to get any success with it, you get those easy wins at the beginning that help you get through that flat line of basically nothing happening. I'll take this a step further, and when I set a small goal that I know I can get with a couple months of work, once I achieve that goal, instead of just achieving it and having the feeling of success from that, I also go a step further and kind of celebrate a little bit, let loose, and that keeps you on the right track for the bigger future goals. Now, one big thing that a lot of people make a mistake on is focusing too much on the goals, which sounds weird for me to say. I set goals a lot. I love talking about goals. Literally the past 3 videos that I've done have been about goals. But you need to focus less on the goals and more about the system that's going to get you to those goals. This isn't my idea, obviously. It's been said many times by many different people. Basically, focusing on the system is more realistic and more practical for how you're actually going to get to the goal. If you just focus on the goal, that's the end game. That's great and all. Really fun to think about the end goal. I imagine the future all the time. However, thinking about the goal and the end game, it's not going to get you anywhere. You're not anywhere right now. So thinking about that isn't going to do shit for you. You have to actually think about the work and plan the work that's going to get you there. So let's say, I'll use the same example as earlier. Actually, we'll change it up. So let's say I want to run a marathon in 1 year of training. That's a great goal. That's a big goal. Having that goal of a marathon is not going to do anything for you unless you have goals that are actually about the work to get there. So maybe instead of having your goal being to run a marathon, maybe your goal is run 5 times a week, or stretch every day, drink more water, eat healthier, eat more carbs, things that are going to help you with running, and then ultimately lead you to achieving the marathon distance. Or I'll use another simple example. Say you're a car salesman and you want to make $100,000 in commission on cars. That's a good goal as well. That's a lot of money. However, if that's your only goal, you're not going to get anywhere. You need to, I'm not really a car salesman, so I don't know too much about this, but theoretically, you need to reach out to people. You need to make calls every day. You need to make emails. You need to advertise, because that's the only way you're going to get sales. And the only way that you're going to achieve that final goal of $100,000 commission is by getting sales and doing the things that are actually going to get you there, and having those be your focus rather than the end goal. Think about it like this. When you make goals, when you make big goals, you're writing them in a book. And once you write them down, that's great and all, but you want to close that book and file it away on your bookshelf, and then write some smaller books that are about the systems that are going to get you there. If you always have that big book of goals open, of the big end game, that's not really going to help you, because you're going to become very overwhelmed. You need to file that away, put it up, and kind of forget about it. Always keep it in the back of your head. It's good for motivation, but you want to file it away and kind of focus on the things that are actually going to get you to that book. Don't get sidetracked. The fastest way between 2 points is a straight line. Let me explain. So as an example, let's say that I want to own 10 rental properties of real estate, and then I go out to a networking event to make connections. I'm not going to go to one about bodybuilding or personal training or anything like that. I'm going to go to one about real estate, because that's going to help me. Don't get sidetracked while bodybuilding and going to the gym and all. That's great. That's not helping you get to your goal of real estate. And this is something I also kind of struggle with, because in my last video, I shared my goals and it was kind of all over the place. I have a lot of random different goals, random different directions. But the thing is, when I'm focusing on one goal that's conflicting with maybe another, like, for example, in the last video, I want to run an ultra marathon, but then I also want to bench 250 pounds. So I'm going to focus on one at a time. I'm not going to focus on both at the same time. That's just impossible. If you're starting here, you're trying to get here, don't do that. Just go in a straight line, go right to it. I'm only going to focus on running at first, and then after, I'm only going to focus on bodybuilding or powerlifting, I guess you could say, because benching. It doesn't matter if you're walking instead of running, as long as you're moving forward. This is a great kind of philosophy to have on those off days where you're not feeling so hot and you need to go to the gym, you need to go for a run, you need to work on your business, you need to make a video for YouTube, things like that. The worst thing that you can do is do nothing. It doesn't matter if I edit for 10 minutes one day. It doesn't matter if I edit for 5 minutes one day. I edited, I took a step in the right direction to building my YouTube channel, and that's all that matters, because I know that other days I'm going to be feeling better and I'm going to feel motivated. I'm going to do hours of work. But on days that I'm not feeling so good, as long as I'm taking that little step forward, it doesn't matter how big it is, as long as it's forward and not stagnant or backwards. So I used to run cross country. We would do 5Ks for our races, and the worst thing that you could do was stop or walk during a 5K. You have that momentum of running, and you do not want to lose that. And once you stop, it's so hard to get going again. Your legs start seizing up. You start getting side cramps. If you've ran before, you know that too. The worst thing you can do is stop. So as long as you're taking steps towards the finish line, that's all that matters. Now, this is going to sound extremely hypocritical of me, considering my last video, but do not tell people your goals, because it releases dopamine just telling people. Studies show that when you tell people about your goals, that's when you actually get the dopamine. And then most people, once they get that hit of dopamine, that's all they need, and then they don't actually work toward their goal, which was the whole point of telling people. This is a pet peeve. I might rant a little bit, but I cannot stand when people go telling everyone their goals, telling how much they're going to do, and then you look over a week later and they're not doing anything. I can't stand it, because I know what happened. I know they got that hit of dopamine. They felt, oh, I'm accomplished. I felt so good. And then when it comes time to actually do the work, they don't need it anymore, because they already got that dopamine. Now, yeah, I'm a big hypocrite of this. However, the reason I made that last video was to keep myself accountable, because I know that you guys will keep me accountable, because even if you're not here with me, I know that just you watching is kind of eyes on me, and I know I need to stay on my shit throughout the whole year, or else, I mean, some of y'all out there will know that I slacked off this year, and I do not want that to happen. That's kind of the double-edged sword of this example, is that telling people can be good, because say you go to the gym every day and you have an accountability partner, which is great. It's good to have lifting partners. They're going to know your goals, obviously, to be a better lifter, be more fit, be a faster runner, things like that. Obviously, some people are going to know. Your family will hopefully know because of safety reasons, or your spouse, immediate family will know because you're leaving for part of the day and you don't just want to be that mysterious guy just leaving. You need to tell them where you're going. But don't tell people just to tell people for no reason. Or if it'll help you with connections, that's also good too. But don't just go telling people just to brag unless you're actually doing it. Rather than telling people what you're going to do, focus on showing them. The thing to know about people is that people do not listen. No matter how persuasive you are, no matter how good of a salesman you are, people will not listen unless you actually show them. You need to show them. They need to see it with their eyes, touch it with their hands. They need to see what you're talking about. If you're just trying to use your words, it's going to go in one ear, out the other. Some words might stick, but if you truly want to convince them, then you need to actually show them with results, in this case, for your goals. Not even necessarily results, but just the fact that you're working toward your goal in general. This goes back to the previous point. You can tell people all you want about everything you're going to do, everything you're doing right now, but unless they actually see you working toward it, they're not going to believe you. At least, I hope not, because they should be able to see through the bullshit. I've kind of become desensitized to this a little bit. I remember I used to be like, oh, wow, you're going to be doing that? Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. I can't wait. I really believe in you. But I realized that unless I'm actually seeing the person doing anything to work toward that goal that they're telling me about afterwards, it doesn't mean anything. It's just words at the end of the day. Anybody can say literally anything, but if they're not having their actions show, then, I mean, there's nothing there. Now, a downside to keeping all your goals to yourself is that it can be difficult when people think you're just lazy, you're not doing anything, not working toward anything, when in reality you might be. You might be working really hard, but you don't want to tell them because maybe it's a surprise, or maybe because, like I just said, you don't want to release that dopamine. You want to delay your gratification until you actually succeed or start to see some success. I feel like an example where this would pop up is, say you're living with your parents or something like that, and you're working on an online business from your laptop entirely, and you're spending a lot of time in your room. Your parents will never know what you're doing unless you tell them. And if you're just in your room all day on your laptop, they're going to assume you're playing video games or something. So it can be really hard in this case, and it might be worthwhile to just tell them what you're doing, because they could offer some motivation as well. As long as you keep continuing to work on that online business and don't let that dopamine detract you. Another thing is, you might be working really hard on something, you've been working on it for a while, but you don't have any tangible proof of it working. But like you got to get through that first line of not much happening. This can be hard because, say you're applying for a job and you need to put stuff on your resume and you don't really have anything to show for it. You can't put, I've been working on this for 2 years, and have no evidence or no proof of success. That can be really demotivating, so sometimes it's good to just let people know what you're doing for this reason, to show people that you are capable of working hard and staying consistent with something. So I want to leave you with this. Make actionable steps toward your goal that you can actually do right now. You don't need to wait weeks before you can do, or it's not a hypothetical thing like lose 20 pounds. Great, lose 20 pounds, but how are you going to lose 20 pounds? Meal prep right after this video. Go do cardio right after this video. Things like that. Things that are actual steps, like go run 20 minutes. You need to be specific with the steps that you're going to take to get to your goals. If you're just broad, you're vague, it's not going to help at all, because it's going to take a lot more motivation to get there. You want to make this easy. If I'm like, all right, I'm going to go run 30 minutes tonight at 6 p.m. That's a lot better than saying, oh, I need to do more cardio. That's great and all, but it's not very actionable. Okay, I want to do more cardio. What does that mean? Does that mean go on the treadmill? Does that mean run outside? Does that mean go for a walk every day? It kind of is too vague, so you need to set very specific things, because that will help you achieve your goals. And telling people about your goals does not do anything as much as you wish it did. So go out there, start chasing your goals. Don't wait around. Don't tell people. Tired of it. Good luck.